अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः.
Namaskar, this is Tulja Bhavani. I welcome you all to my online class in law, especially to the wing of business law. Dear viewers, today we are going to discuss about consideration and essential elements of a valid consideration with our PowerPoints. The lecture remains to be the same 010 class. In the previous class, due to lack of internet connection, I have spoken about the same topic but without PPTs. Now we are going to discuss about consideration and essential elements of a valid consideration with PPTs. So, dear viewers, before discussing about our topic today, let us have a small recap of what we have learned in our previous class 009. In our previous class 009, we have studied about acceptance, importance of acceptance, and revocation of acceptance. So, acceptance means giving free willingness or consent to the offer. So, dear viewers, whenever an offer is made, the offeree has to give his consent freely. Means the acceptance should come voluntarily without any force, either physical or mental. So if the offeree is giving his acceptance, offer and acceptance both meet together and an agreement is formed. To make this agreement valid, the concept of enforceability should be added. So when enforceability added to this offer and acceptance, it becomes a contract, right? So acceptance, what I said about acceptance means giving free willingness to the offer made. So here the offeree, the acceptor is accepting to be bound by the terms of the contract. In simple language, acceptance means giving approval to the offer as well as the offerer. Then we discussed about the importance of acceptance. Dear viewers, the importance of acceptance was well explained by a British jurist, Sir William Anson, where Sir William Anson has compared offer and acceptance with that of gunpowder and lighted stick of matchbox. What Sir Anson has said that acceptance is as dangerous as a lighted stick of matchbox being thrown on the gunpowder. So once if the stick of the matchbox is lighted and if it is thrown on the gunpowder, you can't imagine the kind of destruction, the kind of blast which is going to take place. So as the gunpowder is safe as long as the matchbox stick is not lighted. Once it is lighted, you cannot take back the gunpowder and you cannot stop the blast. Likewise, an offer is safe until acceptance comes or until acceptance is given. So once if acceptance is given, that becomes a promise to the promiser, and the promiser, that is the offerer, has to perform that promise at any cost. And if the promiser fails to perform, then the promisee has a right to knock the door of the court and see that whatever promise the promiser has made is being implemented. If not implemented, the promiser has to compensate the promisee for the damages incurred. Right. Then we discussed about revocation of acceptance. Dear viewers, revocation of acceptance can be done. There are two ways about revocation of acceptance. One as per the English law, another as per the Indian law. So we need to know both because the Indian Contract Act was passed during 1872 where India was governed by Britishers. So now we are staying in our independent country, in a sovereign country. So we need to know what the Indian law also speaks about. So as per English law, offer once given cannot be revocated, cannot be taken back. Whereas as per Indian law, promise acceptance once given can be taken back until your acceptance reaches the offerer. You have an option of choosing the fastest mode of communication and letting your withdrawal of acceptance information known to the offerer before the original of acceptance letter reaches the offerer. Right. Let us assume that I have given my acceptance through a postcard. Now, after posting the postcard, now my mind changes and I want to withdraw my acceptance. So, what I have to do? I have to make use of either the telephone or the telegram in order to make my revocation of acceptance information reach the offerer before the original acceptance reaches. Right. So this was all about. So dear viewers, today in our 010 class, the same class with PPT, we are going to discuss about consideration and essential elements of a valid consideration. So dear viewers, here are the PowerPoint presentations for you. So revocation is over. Right now, consideration. Consideration is one of the essential elements of a valid contract. Consideration is one of the essential elements of a valid contract. Without consideration, there is no contract at all. Right, so consideration. Consideration means something in return. In Latin word, it is called as in Latin word, it is called as quid pro quo. Quid pro quo means what? Something in return. Quid pro quo means something in return. It is the price which is paid for entering into contract. For entering a contract, both the parties to the contract has to pay something to each other. So when both the parties receive something from each other, it constitutes a consideration, and consideration is the price which is paid for entering into the contract. So in Latin language we have another maxim. In Latin language we have another maxim. Maxim means rule which says ex nudo pacto non oritur action, which means out of nude facts no cause of action arises. So I will give you one example. Let us assume that there are two friends, Tulja Bhavani and Mr. Ram. So what I have done, I have made an offer to my friend Ram saying that, hey Ram, will you buy my laptop for 30,000 rupees? So Ram has accepted my proposal. I have given him my laptop and Ram has given me 30,000 rupees. Here, both of us are receiving consideration. I am receiving 30,000 rupees and Ram is receiving a laptop. Something we are receiving from each other, and this consideration should have some value in the eyes of law. So, here the statement, here we have a maxim, which is a very popular maxim in Latin. It is ex nudo pacto non oritur action, which means out of nude fact, no cause of action arises. Dear viewers, it says that there are some agreements where consideration, there is no consideration, where only one party gives something and the other party will not give anything. So no consideration, no contract. But there are some agreements where one party is giving something and the other party is not giving anything. So there are some agreements which are made out of natural love and affection. So when they are made out of natural love and affection, they are gratuitous, they are voluntary services which are done voluntarily by one party. So when such kind of things are done, it is better to have them in written deed. Let us assume that I have two sons and I have given my entire property in name of my one son. So when I have given my entire property in name of my one son, my another son will fight with the first son, because when she is a mother, she would have gifted us equally, but she has given only to you. So to make my contract, so to make my agreement enforceable, I have to give whatever consideration I am giving to my son, whatever property I am giving to my son, in the form of a written deed. So if I give a written deed, then it will be valid and it will be enforceable in the court of law. Right. So I even told you that there are five kinds of agreements, and out of five agreements, only one agreement will take the form of a contract, and it was commercial agreements where money is involved, and the rest of the four agreements, that is social agreement, domestic agreement, religious agreement, and moral agreements, the moment they are formed, they are not enforceable. The parties entering into the contract will not have any intention of creating legal relationship. Legal relationship is formed only when both the parties to the contract receive something in return. When both the parties are not receiving anything, only one party is giving, another party is enjoying. When there is no legal relationship, there is no enforceability. So those agreements remain as agreements, they do not form contracts. Right. So definition of consideration. Dear viewers, the definition of consideration is given in section 2D of the Indian Contract Act as: when at the desire of the promiser, the promisee or any other person has done or abstained from doing, or does or abstains from doing, or promises to do or to abstain from doing something, which act or abstinence or promise is called a consideration for the promise. Dear viewers, here consideration is categorized into three types: past consideration, present consideration, and future consideration. Here, act means a positive act. Abstinent means a negative act where a person wants to do something, but we are paying him the amount in order to stop him doing something. So, when at the desire of the promiser, dear viewers, consideration should always move from the side of the promiser, but not from the side of the promisee. So, when at the desire of the promiser, the promisee or any other person. So, when the promiser is making the promise, so at the desire of the promiser, if the promisee does anything or any third party does anything, if the promiser does anything or the third party does anything, or they abstain from doing something. So what I have told you, I have given you an example saying that I'm there and my friend Ram is there. So what I have done, I have given 1 lakh rupee to my friend Ram as a hand loan and asked him to refund the amount after 1 year. 1 year completed, 1 year, 1 month is completed. So, like this, 2 years are completed. So, when I asked my friend Ram, you are supposed to refund my amount to me. Ram said that yes, I have to refund you your amount, but at present I do not have. So, I told to Ram very clearly that Ram, if you are not going to give me my money back, I am going to file a case against you. Then Ram was worried. Then he said, okay, I'll give you your 1 lakh rupee and I will give you 20 more thousand extra, provided if you don't file any case against me. So it is an abstinence where we are stopping another party from performing their duty of filing the case. And then essential elements of a valid consideration. Your attention, please. Coffee time. Coffee time, I have simply kept the picture here. And attention, yes, we need to pay attention to the essential elements which are required to make a contract valid, to make a consideration valid. To make a contract valid, we need consideration. And to make a consideration valid, these are the elements required. So what are they? First one, it must move always at the desire of the promiser. We will discuss about each and every point in our this lecture only in the coming slides. It may also move from the promisee or any other person. It must be real, not illusionary. It need not be adequate. It may relate to past, present, or future. It must not be illegal, immoral, or opposed to public policy. Now let us see. It must always move at the desire of the promiser. So, dear viewers, whatever is the consideration, it has to move first at the desire of the promiser. I want the consideration. In which form I want the consideration? I, in the sense, the promiser. So it is always the promiser who has to decide the consideration, but not the promisee. So consideration should always move at the desire of the promiser, but not at the desire of the promisee or third party, but not at the interest of the third party. Any act done at the desire of the third party will not constitute a good consideration, and will not constitute a good consideration within the meaning of section 2D of the act. So whatever definition we discussed here, so there the consideration should move only from the only from the promiser's side. Promiser, in which form the promiser wants the consideration to be, the promisee has to give that consideration in that form only, and the third party should not decide the consideration. If they decide, then it does not fall under the definition of section 2D which we have discussed. So here was the case. It must always move at the desire of the promiser. So dear viewers, we have a very famous case here, Durga Prasad versus Baldev, 1880. So here Baldev is the defendant, Durga Prasad is the plaintiff. So Durga Prasad is a contractor. He takes contracts and he constructs some shops in the market area. So when he is constructing some shops in the market area, on the order of the collector, Durga Prasad has to construct a few shops in the market. So when Durga Prasad is constructing few shops in the market, what happens? A person comes to him, Mr. Baldev, and he says that, see, even I am also allotted, even I have been also allotted one shop in the market. So, dear contractor, I feel happy if you modify the internal side of my shop. So he dictates those terms to the contractor. So the contractor, while making the shops, make little modifications as against the words which is said by the collector, and he gives to Mr. Baldev. So when Mr. Baldev receives the shop, he don't pay, he does not pay, he fails to pay the commission which he has promised to Mr. Durga Prasad. So Mr. Durga Prasad keeps asking, but Baldev is not giving. So what Durga Prasad has done, he has gone to the court and he has filed a case against Mr. Baldev. So, and demanded him the amount. Then the court ordered, saying that the consideration here should move from the side of the promiser. Here, promiser is not Mr. Durga Prasad, promisor is the collector and promisee is Mr. Baldev. Then who is third party to demand the amount? Who is third party to demand the amount? As per the definition given in section 2D of the Indian Contract Act, consideration should always move from the side of the promisor. And Mr. Durga Prasad, you have even failed to make complete modifications, which is said by Mr. Baldev. So Mr. Baldev is not liable to pay you even a single paisa. Then subscriptions or donations for charitable trust. Dear viewers, I told you very well that any amount which is given to the charitable trust or to the religious organization, that is given out of devotion and out of love and affection which we have towards our Almighty God or the Supreme God. So here what happens, there are two people. It is one of the very famous judgment which is given. So here there are two views. What are those views? I told you that uh, charitable trust, description, subscriptions, donations, or charitable for charitable purposes. So here, dear viewers, it comes under religious agreement. So religious agreement, if in order to make them what you say a contract, some money has to be added. The matter of money has to be added. So here the concept of money is added. So when money is added, there are two views to be considered: whether any act done on the basis of the promise made and whether on the basis of the promise made any liability has incurred or not. If no act is taken, if no action is taken based on the promise, then the contract is invalid. It cannot be enforced and the other party need not pay any amount. But based on the promise, if the religious organization started making the modifications or started to do something in the institution and incurs some liability, then the promisor has to pay the amount. So here there are two parties, Abdul Aziz versus Masoom Ali. So Abdul Aziz is on my left hand side and Masoom Ali is on my right hand side. Right hand side. So here what happens, Abdul Aziz is a plaintiff, Masoom Ali is a defendant. So here Masoom Ali is a promiser. So Masoom Ali keeps coming to this mosque every day for offering the prayer. So he himself voluntarily comes and makes a promise saying that I am going to give 500 rupees for the reconstruction of this mosque. So when he said these words to Mr. Abdul Aziz is a promisee. When he is making the promise, he accepted. So once if the promise is accepted, once if the offer is accepted, it becomes a promise and Masoom Ali has to implement this. What Masoom Ali has done, Masoom Ali failed to perform his contractual obligation, failed to fulfill his promise. When he failed to fulfill his promise, Abdul Aziz, he knocked at the door of the court and said, "My lord, Masoom Ali has promised to pay 500 rupees to our mosque for reconstruction, but he failed to give the same." Then the judge asked Mr. Abdul Aziz, "Okay, Mr. Abdul Aziz is the secretary of the what you say temple trust." So the judge asked, saying that, "Yes, Mr. Abdul Aziz, can you please tell us, based on the promise made by Mr. Masoom Ali, have you incurred any liability? Have you started the work?" Abdul Aziz said that, "My lord, we have not started the work." Then, based on this evidence, the judge has given a judgment saying that when you have not incurred any liability, then Mr. Masoom Ali is not liable to pay any amount to you. And the case was given, and the judgment was given in favor of Masoom Ali, where Masoom Ali is not liable to pay even a single paisa. Then comes Kedarnath versus Gauri Muhammad. So here, dear viewers, Kedarnath is the plaintiff, the Pandit who is sitting towards our left hand side, and Gauri Muhammad is a Momin. And one day, Gauri Muhammad, he tells to our Kedarnath saying that I'm going to donate some amount for your temple and for its reconstruction or for its construction of a hall in the temple premises. And later, Gauri Muhammad did not implement his promise. So, based on the promise made by Gauri Muhammad, Kedarnath started constructing the hall. When he started constructing the hall, some expenditure was incurred, and when there was no money, Kedarnath approached Gauri Muhammad saying that you promised to donate some amount to the construction of hall in the temple, and based on your work, I have started the based on your promise, I have started the work. Gauri Muhammad said, I do not have money at present and I cannot pay. Kedarnath argued with him, and later Kedarnath has filed a case in the court of law. Then, what questions were asked earlier to Abdul Aziz? The same questions are posed to Mr. Kedarnath. The honorable judge asked, yes, Mr. Kedarnath, can you tell us how much expenditure have you incurred in renovation of your hall, in construction of the new hall? Then Kedarnath said, I have incurred this much amount. Then the judgment was given in favor of Kedarnath, where the judge asked Gauri Muhammad to pay the amount to the extent of the liability incurred by Mr. Kedarnath. Now, second point, it may also move from the promisee or any other person. Privity of consideration. So, what I said, the consideration should move from the promisee or any other person. Any other person means a stranger to contract. Now, the question arises, what is privity of contract? Privity of contract means when a contract is made, only two parties have a right to enforce the contract. One is the promisor and other is the promisee, but no third party can enforce the contract. A stranger to the contract can't enforce a contract even though the contract has been entered for his benefit. This is privity of contract in case of English law. But in India, privity of consideration, it means what? When the contract is made to benefit the third party, here the third party has a right to enforce the contract in the absence of the promisee. Now, here we have a very famous case known as Chinnaya versus Ramaya 1881. It is a very, very, very popular case. So, dear viewers, on our left hand side, we find a old lady Chinnaya, and on the right hand side, we find a young woman known as Ramaya. So, here, what happens? Chinnaya has one sister. So, Chinnaya is old. So, the sister of Chinnaya happens to be the mother of Ramaya. So, Chinnaya and her sister, they live together, and both of them are old. So Chinnaya's sister is having a lot of property and she is having only one daughter. In spite of having one daughter, she stays with her sister Chinnaya and she takes care of Chinnaya. So on one fine evening, she calls Ramaya to her home saying that, see Ramaya, now I have become old. So after me, you have to take care of my sister. So if you take care of my sister, and if you take care of my sister, I am going to transfer my entire property to you. So here Ramaya accepted and she said, definitely I am going to take care of your sister. And her mother said that for every month you have to give 653 rupees to my sister Chinnaya, for which Ramaya has accepted. So when Chinnaya's sister has transferred the property to Ramaya, there was a contract made by Ramaya and her mother. So after few days, her mother expired. So Chinnaya has given an annuity to Ramaya has given an annuity to Chinnaya for 1 year, for 2 years, and later she stopped giving the amount. When she stopped giving the amount, Chinnaya is not having any other source of income. As she is old, she cannot go out and she cannot work. So she was finding life to be very difficult to lead. So she again called Ramaya and said, see, you are supposed to give me 653 rupees per year as per the contract made by your mother, but you are not giving. So Ramaya said, why should I give? Why should I give when my mother is not alive? Why should I give? I'm not going to give you any amount because there was no contract made between you and me. Then Chinnaya, she approached the court and she told to the judge the same story. Then the judge has heard the version of both Chinnaya and Ramaya, and Ramaya told to the judge, saying that yes, my lord, the contract was made between me and my mother, and my auntie is a third party, and I'm not going to give anything to my auntie because there is no contract between us. And when a contract is made, both the parties should receive something from each other, right? I am giving her 653 rupees, but she is not giving me anything. So when she is not giving me anything, why should I give some amount to my auntie Chinnaya? Then the judge has said that yes, whatever you said is correct. A stranger to contract cannot enforce the contract, but here a stranger to consideration can enforce the contract. Yes, your auntie is a stranger, but it is because of your auntie your mother has entered into contract with you. Whether so, your mother has paid consideration to you on behalf of Chinnaya, and this is more than enough to enforce the contract. Therefore, the court orders you, Miss Ramaya, to pay your mother an amount of 653 per year. Right, third one, it must be real and not illusionary. Dear viewers, whatever is the consideration, that should be clear and not illusionary. Illusory. It should be clear, real, and not illusory. You can see, a man traveling on the road along with his wife, and on the opposite direction, a heavy lorry comes and he hits those couple, and a little blast happens, where as a result of which the man dies and he is unconscious and he has expired. So when his wife is worried, there comes a tantric and he says, I'm going to put life in the body of your husband, provided if you give me 1 crore rupee. See, these kinds of agreements are not real. So if she gives him 1 lakh rupee also, will the tantric put life in the dead body of her husband? No, it's not possible because life once gone is gone. It is only God who has the right to give us life, and it is only God who has the right to take back our life. We do not have right to take back our life. Committing of suicide is a crime under section 309 of CRPC. So, dear viewers, so here, whatever the tantric is saying is not real. Then it need not be adequate. Dear viewers, whatever is the consideration, that need not be adequate, but what consideration is given by both the parties should have some value in the eyes of law. Yesterday, I told you the example of watch, and even today, I give the same watch. Let us assume that this is my watch, and when this is a digital watch, the cost of this watch is 5,700. So when the price of this watch is 5,700, what I have done, I have taken out this watch and I have given to my nephew for 50 rupees. When I have given 5,700 watch for 50 rupees, a contract is made because it should have some value in the eyes of law, whether it is 1 rupee or it is 50 rupees or it is 1 crore or beyond that. something which can be measured in terms of money will definitely have value in the eyes of law. So when I'm giving 5,700 watch to my nephew for 50 rupees, the court will ask me, in case if either of us fails to perform our obligation, the court will ask me, what made you to give this 5,700 watch for just 550 rupees? Was there any mental pressure on you, or was there any physical presence on you? So the intention of the promiser will be checked by the court. Right, it may relate to past, present, or future. So, dear viewers, as per English law, past considerations are no consideration, only present and future considerations are treated as consideration. Whereas, as per Indian law, there are three types of consideration relating to past, present, and future. Then it must not be illegal, immoral, and opposed to public policy. Whatever consideration you are receiving, that should not be illegal, immoral, and opposed to public policy. In our previous classes, we discussed about a house which is given on rent to a prostitute, knowingly that the house will be used for prostitution purpose is illegal, immoral. Right, giving a house for rent to the Naxalites for storing the weapons is also illegal. And a collector or a higher official taking bribe and giving jobs are opposed to public policy. So this was all about consideration and essential elements of a valid consideration. Thank you so much for watching me. Thank you so much for watching me, and dear viewers, have a good day. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.